Using insight and gaining insight can help you refresh a problem in your target audience's minds and make it more relevant to them. Save for Crabs took an established problem but moved it away from an environmental issue into something that was really quite surprising but had a great impact on the target audience.
One of the really interesting things in social marketing is what you learn from consumers. That sort of insight you get to them that always surprises you. And when you translate that into creative, it actually comes out to be pretty surprising to the audience too. The real problem was around the Chesapeake Bay, one of our oldest and most important estuaries, a place of tremendous commercial and historical value to both states. And the problem is it's very polluted. The additional problem was it's polluted by so many ways, so many different forms. What could possibly be done with a relatively modest budget to sort of break through the clutter of environmental disaster messages which people were used to hearing? And the answer came at the end of a 6-month process of sitting down hour after hour, making a list of all the different things that went into the bay. And many of them were very complicated. It turns out that one of them was manageable. And that was, when people fertilize in the spring, we have spring rains. There's so much asphalt now in the area that those spring rains wash fertilizer into the bay, and it's a significant portion of pollution. So the idea was, how can we get people to fertilize in the fall when we don't have the rains, where it won't be washed into the bay, instead of fertilizing in the spring? The real advantage of choosing this was precisely because we could measure the result. We had very good data on the people who fertilized in the fall versus fertilizing in the spring. It also gave us an advantage of having lots of partners. There were people who sold a fertilizer, there were lawn companies, but the most difficult audience of all was really the environmental audience who wanted this to happen, because they so deeply believed that if people understood the environment, then they would want to protect the bay. And we said, well, maybe that's true, but give us a chance to look at and talk to consumers and see what's important to the bay with them. And over again, crabs and shellfish came up. It just said, we miss good Virginia crab, we miss good Maryland crab. So the creative team said, well, let's listen to them. Let's do something that will tie in to their insight that crabs are something that's important to them in the bay. What people like to do is eat the crabs. They don't like to save them and pet them. They want to eat them. So why don't we just tell them that?
Spring rains in the D.C. area carry excess fertilizer to our sewers and rivers. It travels to the Chesapeake Bay, where blue crabs have been rapidly disappearing. They suffocate slowly from lack of oxygen. No crabs should die like this. They should perish in some hot, tasty, melted butter. So hold off on the fertilizer until fall, because ridding the planet of delicious backfin is just plain wrong.
From the very beginning, we knew we were making, if we were lucky, we would make a tiny, tiny contribution. Create a giggle about the bay. Let people think about it as something funny and human and near to them. There was a very large effort at some very big billboards. They were put in some of the most visible places in D.C., metro stations, where millions of people come in on the metro every day from their lawned homes. Chefs would call us and say, you know, I really miss cooking with crab. I'm glad you guys are doing this. Is there anything I could do to help? And that led to some earned media. So we got television news coverage of chefs talking about this with the symbol in the back. Suddenly it seemed to make sense to have something in their restaurants. So coasters seemed to make a really good idea. So one of the questions is, how do you evaluate something like this? We used a random digital dialing system of asking people questions. We basically explored 3 things with them. Have you heard anything about this? Did you think it was cool? How did you react to it? And we asked a behavioral question. If you have a lawn, did you fertilize in the fall or in the spring? And we were as surprised by the answers as we were by the intervention. We got a large number of people saying that they decided not to fertilize at all. It wasn't necessarily one of our objectives, but we think that this made such an impact on people that they really did want to do something. not only for the crabs, but for the bay.
Spring rains carry excess lawn fertilizer through our sewers and rivers to the Chesapeake Bay, where the blue crab harvest has been extremely low. So skip the fertilizer until fall. Because once they're gone, what's left to enjoy?
I think the two most important lessons is listen to consumers and what they really care about in terms of an issue, rather than trying to teach them what we care about. And then find some way of tying what they care about into what we care about. So begin with them rather than beginning with us. And secondly, I think humor works, and I think it's really underutilized in social marketing. You know, people say, well, you can't laugh at cancer. No, you can't laugh at cancer. But you can laugh with a woman who's dealing with a family and has cancer. And she will understand that. Humor can be a tremendous way to help people identify with our work, and I think we ought to use it more.